I kept my tone calm, emotionless. Brenda's voice grew louder. Fine. Did you hear what I said? Yes, dear. You're going on a date with another man this Friday, and you're okay with that. Her surprise was evident on her face. Not at all, she replied, but quickly added, What other option do I have? I answered, my voice steady. Like you said, I don't control you. You're on your own. The determination in her voice and the look on her face showed she was resolute in going through with it. So, what choice do I have left? She asked. I'll be back. Don't let your fragile male ego get in the way, she retorted, her tone softening. I love you, and I'll make things right. You'll see. You know it's wrong, I said, my voice unwavering. What do you mean? She asked, confusion clear in her voice. I never said anything like that. Would your parents or mine agree with you? I asked. Brenda lowered her gaze, unwilling to answer. That was the confirmation I needed. I let the silence linger, watching her try to avoid facing the truth. You know they wouldn't approve. You know what you're doing is wrong, I continued, my voice firm. You just admitted it yourself. She hesitated, then spoke. But you said I could do it. No, I replied. I only admitted that I couldn't stop you, but I never said I approved of it. I paused, taking a deep breath. I wish you'd stay with me or go out with me. We could go to the same restaurant, even the same dance club afterward. But it's not about food or dancing, is it? You prefer the company of someone else. I waited, expecting an answer. His name, what is it? She remained silent, her head slightly tilted, avoiding the question. What's his name? I pressed. It doesn't matter, she said, almost offensively. I'm not going to argue about it. I kept my tone cold. Just know this. I don't always spend time with him. Meeting him on Friday will have consequences. What consequences? She asked, trying to sound indifferent. Like you with him, I said. You're not just beautiful, you're smart. I've told you that before, and I'll keep telling you because I mean it. She shifted uncomfortably, but I continued. I leave it to you to figure out the consequences of going out with him instead of me. She looked at me, a smirk creeping onto her face. You're bluffing. Her voice tried to hide the uncertainty. You love me. You always give me what I want. I want it. Yes, I replied, my tone firm. But as I said, I'll be back. We'll love each other and grow old together. You can do whatever you want, but you've been warned. I stood up, grabbed my keys, and left before she could say another word. The apartment felt cold all week, to say the least. By Thursday night, I packed my things and moved into the guest room. What are you doing? She asked as I carried an armful of clothes that I looked at her, my face expressionless. Looks like I overestimated your intelligence. What do you think I'm doing? She asked. You're moving, she answered, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Yes, I replied, my tone steady. My wife wants to date another man. You think I'm going to stay in the same room with a cheater? I paused. Dream on. Her voice took on a playful tone, almost like a child. You're such a little boy. Without saying a word, I placed my clothes in the empty closet and went back for more. So now you're punishing me with silence, she smirked. See how pathetic you are. Consequences, I muttered. She can't say she wasn't warned. On Friday afternoon, I left work early and went to a high-end salon where I had my hair professionally cut, a clean shave, and a manicure. No polish, just neat nails. Next door, I bought a casual yet stylish button-down shirt, slacks, and a jacket. I considered getting new shoes, but decided against it. Shoes and dancing don't mix. On the way home, I stopped at a car wash for a deep clean. My truck looked confused by the treatment. At home, I took a shower just as I heard Brenda enter the bathroom. I waited for her to finish. Half an hour later, she came downstairs wearing a new dress, one I hadn't seen before. It ended a few inches above her knee, offering everyone a generous view of her cleavage. She paused at the last step, clearly expecting a compliment. When I remained silent, she glanced at me again, her eyes widening in disbelief. "Wow," she said. I answered dryly, "You look stunning. Where are you going?" "Going out," I replied coolly, mimicking her condescending tone. "What? Did you think your weak, ignorant husband would just sit at home and wait for his promiscuous majesty to show up?" Shaking my head slowly, I opened the door to the garage. "I thought you were smarter than that." Brenda looked at me, her face twisting with frustration. "I can't be late. Charm doesn't tolerate that," she snapped, climbing into my freshly cleaned truck. I heard her shout as she got in, and I couldn't help but smile. "Gotcha." Charmaine and I spent an amazing evening at a wine bar that offered light meals. On weekends, a live pianist played on a small dance floor. By then, we realized that our conversation flowed effortlessly. And even better, she truly appreciated my sense of humor. Yes, I know it's a cliché, but it's true. Few things capture a man's heart more than a woman laughing at his jokes. Dancing together felt electric, like sharing an intimate moment. In our shoes, we moved in perfect harmony. More than once, our lips brushed, her ear, her cheek, even her lips. The chemistry between us was undeniable. Our bodies seemed to communicate, without words, as we swayed close to each other. Still, we both understood the situation. I was married, and we both knew what that meant and what it didn't. So, we spent a long, relaxed evening sipping wine, letting our eyes play flirtatious games while we chatted. Brenda, as I mentioned, is beautiful and passionate. But the flip side of passion is often jealousy. I was almost certain the thought of me being with Charmaine would drive her crazy and ruin the wonderful time she expected to have with her new lustful man. When I dropped Charmaine off at her apartment, she did me a favor by leaving traces of her perfume on my shirt and smearing her freshly painted lips on my collar, neck, and cheek. Kissing me on the cheek, she wished me good night. "Go get her, tiger," she teased. We both laughed as I climbed into my truck and headed home. It was barely 1 a.m. when I walked into the house. "Where the hell have you been?" Brenda's voice rang out. "None of your business," I replied. "You never told me where you went with your anonymous Mr. Pound," she shot back. "I'd ask if you use protection, but frankly, I don't care if you're falling apart inside anymore." "I'll never touch your cheating body again," she sneered. "So, I don't care where you went, who you were with, or what you did." I couldn't help but respond. "I had a wonderful time, and I'm really grateful for it." She stared at me, confused. "What do you mean?" "Thank you," I said, a hint of sarcasm in my voice. "If you hadn't come up with the ridiculous idea of opening our marriage, I would have never had the chance to get to know Charmaine better. What a woman, hot, hot, hot." "So, thanks, darling," Brenda screamed at the top of her lungs, making me wonder if the neighbors would call the police. "You know I hate that," she snarled. "Why do you think Charmaine was the first person I called?" I retorted. Brenda stood there, stunned. "What did you say?" Once again, I realized I had overestimated her intelligence. "Pull yourself together. This isn't rocket science. You decided to reject me, rub my nose in it by dressing up for some anonymous guy, wearing clothes you've never worn for me. Now you're surprised when I follow your lead? You renegotiated the terms of our marriage without me even objecting, and I just did the same. The only difference is I was honest enough to tell you who I was with. For some reason, you're too embarrassed to name yours. Miss Rocket Scientist, what exactly is your problem?" Brenda deflated before my eyes, tears rolling down her cheeks. Without giving her a chance to catch her breath, I continued. "Let me guess. Kevin didn't come through for you tonight like you hoped." Another shriek filled the air as she clamped her hands over her mouth. "How do you know?" she asked, shocked. I replied using my best game show announcer voice. "Once again, the shortcomings of your mind are on full display. For once think, you work in an office with at least 10 other women. Kevin is the biggest womanizer you'll ever meet. Everyone knows who's involved with whom. That's the talk of the office. Did you honestly think you'd be the exception? For over a month, several of your so-called friends have told me you not only fell for Kevin's lies, but that you started actively pursuing him. One of your co-workers even said Kevin dumped her for you. I don't know for sure, but the rumor is that he planned to make you his special one. Tonight, he even booked a room at the Marriott. Her wide eyes were a clear sign of shock, and the dawning realization that she'd been made a fool of was written all over her face. Apparently, he's using the Marriott for the first night, but after that, it's Motel 6 or one of the women's houses. You didn't know that, did you? She burst into tears. Oh, Rick, I'm so sorry. You're right. I'm such a fool. How can you stand being married to someone like me? I looked at her coldly. The good news, Brenda, is that I don't have to stay married to your foolish self. You'll be served tomorrow, right after breakfast. We're renting this house for 3 more months. You can either renew your contract or find something that suits you better. Her voice was thin as she asked, "Where will you go?" Charmaine said I can stay with her while I figure things out, I replied. She has a second bedroom she uses as an office, but we can discuss terms once I move in. Everything else we built will be split down the middle. You can sleep with whoever you want now, and you won't have to deal with a weak husband. I hope Kevin's worth it. Later, I met some of the other husbands who had fallen victim to Kevin, who had earned the nickname Mr. Hound. One night after dinner, he found his car had been vandalized. Windows shattered, paint scratched, baby poop smeared across the seats, and the wheels stolen. As he surveyed the damage, 3 masked men dressed in black robbed and beat him badly. The police were puzzled, unable to explain why the robbers would target his wallet and fake Rolex, especially after they'd already taken the car's valuable parts. Since there were no witnesses and the parking lot cameras had been painted over, the case went nowhere. At one of their homes, 4 of Kevin's victims were playing poker. After recovering, Kevin moved out of state. No one knew where he went, but it didn't matter. As for Brenda, she moved into an apartment, but eventually realized I was happily involved with Charmaine. She too moved out of state, and I never saw her again. I stayed with Charmaine for a while longer, but we mutually agreed that short-term pleasures don't always lead to long-term compatibility. So, I moved into a townhouse closer to work. As I grew older, wiser, and fitter, I connected with a co-worker at the gym. One thing led to another, and I eventually found happiness with a man who possessed real intelligence and loyalty.